Okay, here's your third sort of element to a persuasive piece of writing, and a very important element at that, and that would involve the language features. So, what sort of language should you use to persuade someone effectively? So, what's going to work for you? So, there are a couple of things you need to have a look at when you're writing a persuasive piece of writing. First of all, write in the present tense. Write in the here and the now. Don't write as if it happened yesterday. Don't write as to what's going to happen in the future. You're writing, this is what, like choose an event or an issue that is current and that's happening right now. That's going to interest your reader. You want to write in the first person. You can mention yourself in this piece of writing. It is your opinion and your point of view, so you can mention yourself within this. These are very important elements to connecting your sentences and your paragraphs, and they're called, funnily enough, connectives. Use these to start paragraphs and sentences. So these are just a few key words. If you have a look back in the course outline that you've got there, you will be able to have a look at further examples of connectives that you could use in your piece of writing. And I'm sure your teacher will help you create a list that you can use as well. So things like additionally, this is a good way to, this one here is a good one to start each argument. So your first argument, or the first paragraph of your body, you might start with firstly. The second paragraph of your body, you might start with secondly. And the third paragraph of your body, you might start with thirdly. Be very careful if you go to the fourth paragraph to write fourthly, or things like that. You could use the words finally, like down the bottom here, or in addition. So just be very careful. I think I'd only go to firstly, secondly, and thirdly. I wouldn't go fourthly, fifthly, sixthly, and so on. Other words, however, furthermore, consequently, and so on. So there's a choice of words there to begin your sentences or begin your paragraphs. This is very important. This is where you will also gain a fair bit of your mark for your assessment task as well. The emotive language. What sort of language are you going to use that's going to persuade someone to your point of view better than someone else? So this is the most important part. Use words that will appeal to the reader's emotions. Make them feel like they must agree with you. Give them, get them to the point where they've got no other option but to believe you. Now, here's an example of what you could do. So this is the original sentence, the pair of sentences. I believe that junk food should be banned. It is bad for our children. Change that. Put a bit more emotive language, like strongly in. I strongly support the idea that junk food should be removed from the supermarket shelves immediately. It is poisoning our children and stunting their growth. So you want to use adjectives, describing words, words that are going to really make an impact. There's nothing even wrong. I mean, I've used a little bit here in my in the passage here. Make them feel like they must agree with you. You can capitalize letters, use exclamation marks. Just don't overdo it. You don't want to see capitalized letters or words everywhere in your piece of writing, or exclamation marks everywhere in your piece of writing. You don't want to make the reader feel like you're yelling at them. And that then leads me to this point: be strong without being rude. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Now this is another element that's really important, and I think for upper primary students this is something that you should be adding into your pieces of persuasive writing. You want to use data to support your ideas. This will make the reader believe in your argument. Let the facts speak for themselves. So if you've got facts to back up what you're saying, your argument cannot be faulted. You can't. You've got facts to support what you're actually trying to say. So we're going to stick to the theme of the junk food is bad for children. So I found a couple of pieces of data that I thought were rather interesting. You could use research tells us that around half of all advertising time on children's television is devoted to food advertising. So you could use that somewhere to support one of the arguments within your piece of writing. Another one, results from a study indicated that children were significantly more likely to prefer the taste of low nutrient foods when a cartoon character appeared on the package. So you might want to be talking about, the use of, little toys and cartoon characters on packaging and how that is influencing eating habits of children as well. So that actual bit of data can support that argument. You can even go as far as actually finding actual statistical information like, 50% of such and such, actually use facts and figures if you like. Now, there are three sort of final elements that are really important to that you want to use these in, and you want to use these in your piece of writing. Repetition is very effective. It creates a wonderful effect. Such, for example, it must stop, stop, stop. So just repeating words, and that then leads you to short, dramatic sentences that will make impact as well. Junk food will make you ill. So short, sharp sentences are often effective. Again, you don't want to put, it's like when you have a meal, you're not going to put loads and loads of salt and pepper on there, are you? You're only just going to use just a little bit. You're not going to overdo it. It's exactly the same when we're talking about writing. You don't want to overdo it. Just a sprinkling of these things will make your piece of writing quite effective. Bringing me to similes and metaphors. I've got an example of a metaphor here. The advertising of junk food is choking our television screens. Now, that's talking about advertising of junk food on children's television. So, using metaphors and similes just to make a bit of an impact on the reader is also an effective element to use. Now we're going to move into the planning stage. So what I'm going to go through now are a series. I'm actually going to show you a topic, and I'm going to show you how to plan and begin your piece of writing. So when you begin, you want to plan. Obviously, you've got to plan your piece of writing. You can't just start writing. You need to think about your topic, think about your arguments, gather your data, and prepare and plan before you begin. Lots and lots of note taking here. Now, over here, I've just got an example of a sort of an organizer. You can do whatever you like. You can use your iPad, use Idea Sketch. There are a number of apps that you can use to plan and set out your ideas, or simply write it on a piece of paper. Now, to begin, think of your argument. Will you be for or against something? So you can't sit on the fence here. With a persuasive piece of writing. If you're going to write a discussion, then you mention for and against. That's another type of genre. We're sticking to persuasive writing here, and you have to decide, are you for it or against it? Then you need to think of 3 solid arguments. You also need to find or research some data or information about the topic. So you need to understand the topic before you begin writing. And as I said before, make lots of notes. Now, just to have a look at this organizer here, I felt it was just like a quick, simple way of illustrating your thoughts. So you come up with your topic. And then what's your opinion on your topic? So are you for it or against it? You come up with, now you stick with if you're for something or against something, you then have to come up with 3 reasons why. Now these need to be 3 separate reasons. Okay, try not to make them too closely related because you will then find it difficult to find supporting details for them. So 3 clear arguments why you are for something or why you're against something. Now, once you've come up with those individual arguments, look at one at a time. From this first argument, come up with about 3. I'd come up with about 3 bullet points of things that support that argument. Okay, so why you would say that. So 1 argument and 3 bullet points to go with. This will make it easy when you come to actually sitting down and writing. Then look at your second argument. What are 3 bullet points that you could you would use to support this argument? And finally, your third argument, what are 3 bullet points or 3 reasons that support this argument? Nice and clear, simple ways of thinking and planning out your piece of writing. So let's look at an example. So I'm going to stick with the junk food being an issue for children, advertising it on television. So let's have a look and make it a bit clearer as we go along here. Now this is my sort of plan. This is just my plan. This isn't the actual piece of writing. This is looking at how am I going to begin my piece of writing. I'm going to write lots of notes. I've sort of written a little bit in sentences here, but you can write in a simple sentence or bullet points, up to you. Keep it simple. Do not start here writing because this is purely a stage for you to get your ideas on paper. So be very careful. So you want to think in the beginning, what's going to be my hook or grabber? How am I what am I going to start with? I know that my opinion, this is actually what my argument is here. Junk food advertising should be banned during children's television shows. So that's my topic, that's my idea, that's what I'm going to write about. I'm wanting to ban advertising of junk food on children's television shows. Okay, I'm very clear on my argument. My little hook is I'm just going to say, would you like your children to see ads for poison during an ABC3 TV show? So I've just thrown a little question in there. I might change it later. It was just an idea, just a thought. I stuck with poison. I didn't want to I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to put something that's inappropriate. So thinking about your reader throughout this process. So in my introduction, this is my hook. I then state my opinion. I then briefly mention my 3 arguments. Now, my 3 arguments will be the fact that junk food's bad for you, children are impressionable, and exercise should be encouraged. They're my 3 sort of main arguments. And then my final statement or my final sentence in this paragraph will be junk food companies would disagree, but I would argue that advertising junk food to children is madness. So I've sort of already come up with my hook my topic sentence and my concluding sentence. You might not, in your introduction, when you're planning, you might just have your opinion and have your arguments and then go and plan the rest, then come back and do this, which was pretty much when I was creating this PowerPoint. All I had on this first page was my argument. I then went through and plotted the rest of the plan and then came back and added this and added this. So it's the same thing when you go and plan your piece of writing. Just be clear that in your introduction you want to state that opinion, but your first sentence will be your hook. Your second sentence will be your what's your argument, your opinion on something. The next 3 sentences will briefly, or 2 or 3 sentences will sort of talk about what you're going to say, and then finally just something to sort of keep your reader's attention and conclude that first paragraph. Do not go into any major details of anything or any details of these arguments. Just keep it simple. Stick to this step-by-step recipe. Now, here's my first argument. Now, my first argument is the fact that junk food is bad for children. I've got it there. It's clear. I'm right. Now, I've got 3 bullet points here that are supporting this one argument. Okay, I'm going to talk about the fact that children need to eat healthy foods. I'm going to talk about healthy food assists in muscle growth and brain development. Well, I could find some data here on brain development maybe and see if I can support that with a little bit of data. Good food and healthy body means that children will do well in school. So there might be something there that I could support with the fact that children will do better at school if they eat well. So I've got my argument, I've got my 3 supporting details. Now I've just popped this here on this slide here, just another little recipe, another little outline that you could do for each of these like each of these paragraphs. So for each argument, have a topic sentence, have 3 sentences for each of the supporting details, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 concluding sentence that restates that argument. That gives you a paragraph of 5 sentences. Now, Again, I am never going to say to you, you must write 4 sentences, you must write 5 sentences. This is a guide. Obviously, if you want to write a little bit more, you might write 2 sentences about this brain development, bringing that to 6 sentences in your paragraph and so on. So this here is purely a guide for those that, sometimes people like to know that I've got to write my topic sentence. You write it. Then I'm going to write 3 sentences for each of these. Then I'm going to conclude my paragraph. So it was just purely a guide. Okay, so we've got our argument 1 planned out. Here's our argument 2, that children are impressionable. So children are going to, look at the television, and believe everything that they see, believe everything that they hear. Just have a look at the impact of music on young people and how much that plays a role in their lives. So children are very impressionable. Now, there's supporting details that I've chosen for this particular argument is that children will listen to everything they see on TV. Everything is real to them. Adults need to be responsible for what their children are watching on TV and what they're eating. So the adults have to take some responsibility for this as well. And children love toys, and often the food is sold with a cool toy, usually one from a recent movie. So each of these 3 arguments support this these 3 details support this main argument here. Okay, so there's my argument 2 with the supporting details. Again, you can get some data or statistics to support 1, 2, or all 3 of these particular supporting details. Now, my third argument, children should be encouraged to exercise. So my supporting details for this particular argument would be, instead of showing junk food, why not show good food options or healthy food options? Again, this is notes. You don't need to get fancy and worry about things at this point. Children need to get off the couch and get outside more, and sport and activity should be advertised more often. So these are my 3 supporting details that will be written and support this particular argument. Now, this is my concluding paragraph. Again, I've laid it out so it's in clear sections so you can pull together this one paragraph. So the first sentence, or the topic sentence, would be restating the argument. There it is there. Now, my sentences, 3, 4 sentences in the middle of my paragraph, will be restating each of these 3 arguments, briefly mentioning the 3 main arguments that I talked about. Again, try to vary the way in which you write each of those arguments. You don't want to sort of be, restating them in exactly the same way each time. Then your final sentence or 2 needs to be a future recommendation, something that's going to leave your reader with a little bit of hope and a little bit of an idea of where to go now, or where to now. And I actually came up with that and wrote it here. Again, you might just write some brief points there, or you might want to actually write your sentence that you're going to use. That planning is up to you. So my final part will be, and I might even change this when I go to write my piece of writing, but this is where I've started. We need to save the future of our children. Do you want your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to be unhealthy? We must take action now. So that was my way of leaving the reader with an idea of what we need to do, or appealing to their emotions, leaving them with a thought of, should I really should listen to what this person has just written. Now, the last couple of slides I've got for you is how to sort of bring it all together. We've talked about, what's the purpose of this genre. We've looked at the structure. We've looked at the language features that are required, and we've even sat down and looked at how to begin planning. Once you've spent that time planning and got lots and lots of things written down, you might have idea bubbles and concept webs. It doesn't matter how you plan, as long as you sort of stick to that clear recipe that I've outlined for you. When you get to that point where you've got everything written down, you know exactly what's going in your introduction, what's going to be each of your 3 arguments, what are their supporting details going to be, what's going in my conclusion, what data or a little bit of information you've got there to support your arguments, you then want to start bringing it together. So, have you collected all the data to support each argument? Think about the connectives to link each sentence and paragraph. Have a clear understanding of, I've got to put those in there. where am I going to put them, how am I going to use them, and in particular, how you're going to use that emotive language. And we're going to fix up that typo right there. Use emotive language. Be passionate about what you want to say. Don't be shy and hold back and think, I don't want to offend anybody, or I really don't believe in this. Stick to what your argument is. Be passionate about it and write about it clearly using lots and lots of emotion. We're missing the G there. Okay, finally, we're going to bring it all together. Use your plan to begin writing. It's now time to begin writing. With all that information written on down and planned out, the actual writing stage should take no time at all. Okay, start with the introduction and then work your way through each paragraph. Stop, do your introduction, stop, check, have you got all the elements there? Go back to one of the slides that goes through, have you stuck to the recipe and the outline? Then work your way through each paragraph, making sure that you've stuck again to those guidelines. Check that you have used each element of the structure. Have you got your introduction? Have you got your 3 arguments with the supporting details? Have you got your conclusion? Then within each of those, each paragraph, have you got all the elements that you need, your topic sentence, supporting details, and your concluding sentence. See if you can add some more emotive language. Once you've got it all down on paper, go back and have a look at some of your sentences, and could you tweak and change some of those words, phrases, to sort of bring in a little bit more of that emotive language. And above all, always check your spelling and punctuation. And I always say read, reread, and then read it again. Get a friend to read it. Go outside, read it out aloud. Just go over it and over it and over it to make sure that you haven't missed anything, just like I did in that previous slide. And finally, make an impact on your world. Choose topics, or choose a topic that the world is passionate about at the moment, that's current, that's relevant. Choose something that you're passionate about, that you want to write about, and sit down and write down all your ideas and all your thoughts on how you can make an impact or get your opinion across to your reader. Okay, that's the end of my little my tutorial for you today. You need to think about what's your message, what are you going to actually write about, what's your topic going to be. Again, please feel free to go back through the tutorial and replay, stop, start, and go over those elements of a persuasive piece of writing. Thanks for listening.